foundation of our economy and the livelihoods of millions of South Africans, including extortion and criminality on critical infrastructure. From the 1st of July to the 30th of September 2024, 17 community reported serious crimes showed an overall decline of 5.1%. Specifically, conduct crime decreased by 3%. Property-related crime saw a reduction of 9.9%. And the other serious crimes decreased by 3.4%. Focusing on conduct crime, statistics indicate that murder decreased by 5.8%, sexual offenses by 2.5%, and robbery with aggravating circumstances by 8.8%. We note this general decline and in specific categories of crime, not in fact categories, specific crimes as it were. Additionally, rape decreased by 3.1%, while robbery at residential premises and non-residential premises decreased by 1.3% and 21.1% respectively. Among the 17 community-reported crimes or crime categories monitored, the only increase observed in attempted murder, assault with grievous bodily harm, intent, and commercial crime, which rose by 2.2%, 1.0%, and 18.5% respectively. Now, despite these gains, the persistence of high crime rates underscores the urgency of doubling our effort on law enforcement, prevention, and community involvement. But we've made certain achievements which are worth noting. Since the inception of the 7th administration divisions, which we have sought to strengthen, in particular, crime intelligence, technology, and forensic unit or division. In all of the three, we're not where we should be. We know that. But that's where we're focusing, because we know that when we get to a level where we want them to be, our achievements will even be higher than it is at the moment. We've made some inroads as the South African Police Service has through targeted operations, strategic deployments, and enhanced policing tactics, achieved a number of successes in the fight against crime. I'll mention a few. In Mpumalanga, there have been a number of successes worth mentioning today. In July, SAPS arrested 95 Libyan nationals for immigration violence and suspected unlawful military training. Private Security Industry Regulatory Authorities, SIRA, played an instrumental role in ensuring that their work with SAPS, those responsible for this facility are brought to book. Legal processes are still underway in that regard. Illegal mining has been overcome there as well in Mpumalanga, following the arrest of 19 undocumented Mozambican nationals for their involvement in illegal mining in Pilgrim's Rest recently. Now, earlier this month, police arrested a suspect of a high-speed chase involving a Toyota single cab buggy. White River Flying Squad intercepted the vehicle, which was found with an unusual number of firearms in possession of this particular one suspect. 13 high-caliber firearms, including AK-47. I remember very well 8 of them, and other high-caliber firearms, including an R1, an R4, an R5, and all of that. And the case is in court. And we commend the South African Police Service for their work, especially if you take the context in which this happened. It was 4:30 in the morning when they were monitoring, and they saw a suspicious car and gave chase. Now, in Gauteng, crime intelligence achieved notable successes working with SAPS through multi-dimensional investigations. A raid on the 9th of July uncovered mandrakes and drug manufacturing tools valued at 2.6 million, resulting in 4 arrests. Now, on 31st July, 6 suspects involved in kidnapping of businessmen were apprehended, and crystal meth worth 300 million was confiscated. Now, throughout July, arrests including drug mules in the airport, smuggling narcotics valued in millions, showcasing SAP's determination in combating trafficking. Now, in Limpopo, Groblersdal first, a clandestine drug lab was discovered with crystal meth estimated at 2 billion, which was recovered. Now, 4 suspects, including the farm owner and 2 Mexican nationals, were arrested. In another intelligence-driven operation, 5 suspects were arrested on the discovery of a drug manufacturing laboratory containing mandrakes and equipment worth 3.3 million. The safer festive season operations in the Western Cape are yielding positive results and have led to the seizure of illegal firearms, ammunition and drugs. We are intensifying our efforts to ensure Western Cape is safe and crime-free. We are aware that there are challenges as we speak, but we are dealing with them on an ongoing basis. In the Free State is largely affected by crimes flowing from KZN, which is their neighbor, Eastern Cape on the other, and Gauteng in the northern side, including in the arrests, including stock theft, which affect the cross-boundary kind of criminality. But police in Free State are working hard, monitoring all these problems. In Northern Cape, SAPS have been making a significant arrests during various operations, including recent arrests of 4 suspects in possession of illegal diamonds. SAPS in KZN is making significant progress in dealing with criminal armed gangs and various murder hotspots, and we commend them for this. This includes the recent arrest of 5 very young criminals. And what is happening there is growing gang related kind of criminality, including firing firearms at random and with recklessness, which we cannot tolerate, and we are commending police for their work. The perpetrators responsible for the tragic mass shootings in Lusigi and Kumbu in late September and early October, respectively, have been arrested, and their cases are now before courts. Lusigi and Kumbu mass murders, characterized by family-coordinated targeting, highlight a grave and unprecedented challenge in combating localized crime networks. These tragic incidents underscore the urgent need to address deeply rooted familial conflicts and improve community engagement to prevent such. Additionally, the coordination of criminal activities from within prison facilities remains a significant concern. This is why we've gone out of our way and engaged authorities in the prison department, including the minister, raising our concern about this. This practice undermines public safety and highlights the need for stricter oversight, enhanced security measures within the correctional institutions. Because if we don't do this, it means police will always be in the hand for criminals that they would have arrested, processed through courts, and then they get inside prisons, and then they start venturing into new crimes. We are working with them, and we hope that we'll turn the corner. We officially entered into cooperation agreements with all the metropolitan municipalities throughout the country. Civilian Secretariat for Police Service played a fundamental role, and they still continue to do so. And no sooner have we entered into these agreements, there are processes that they are into, processing further coordination on data, sharing whatever equipment, including cameras, and enhancing policing in those metros. We're getting there. And on police misconduct, IP continues to keep police officers in check and will monitor progress. But we do want to emphasize that we are dealing with cases of misconduct on the side of police. We don't shy away from any of this, and will continue to do so. In late October, the Ministry engaged with the Cash in Transit Association of South Africa, SAPS, to address the persistent issue of cash in transit highs. The collaboration led to establishment of a working group and initiated a drafting of the Memorandum of Understanding, reviewing the current one and enhancing it, and ensuring that we bring in quality in terms of our relations with SAPS, even at operational level. Now, efforts are underway to complete all those processes, and we're quite happy that we're making progress, tangible progress in this regard. Operation Chanella has proven highly successful, leading to 262,396 arrests, 7,549 high-density operations, and over 8 million actions executed. Public order policing achievements in the second quarter of 2024-2025 include 2,756 arrests with seizures of counterfeit goods with 22.2 million, 93 firearms, and 846 rounds of ammunition. Border policing efforts resulted in 6,610 arrests and significant confiscations, including drugs worth 498 million, firearms, explosives, and stolen vehicles valued at 66.9 million. There is urgency to overhaul policing in all ports of entry, including in border policing. We note this is something that stands out as a challenge. We will be going there to review current status of our policing in these particular important areas of our work. Now, there is a need for closer cooperation and collaboration between SAPS, Justice, NPA, and Home Affairs to make Operation Chanella much more effective in relation to different crimes and criminals. Some of the criminals that Operation Chanella collects need to be processed as they would be foreign. They would be coming from outside South Africa, and therefore needing Home Affairs and all of that. We're aware of this. We are concerned about this matter, and hence the call for closer operational collaboration. Specialized operations recorded 87 arrests, confiscating 76 firearms, 2,513 rounds of ammunition, and recovered 29 vehicles. These are stolen vehicles. High-profile criminals were convicted, and successful operations against drug collaborators. Laboratories were conducted. Advanced forensic techniques have also expedited investigations and improved crime scene analysis, ensuring efficient processing of identification of victims in criminal incidents. These accomplishments underlined SAPS' capacity and determination to bring perpetrators to justice. The second quarter of significant strides in the justice system led to 265 life sentences, including 222 individuals, including 61 for murder and 98 for rape. Additional 22 individuals received sentences of 40 years or more, reflecting the department's commitment to delivering severe penalties for serious crimes. DPCI, which focuses on organized crime, have also done some significant strides. In police killings, for instance, 17 police officials were murdered, 13 off duty, 4 on duty. The Directorate arrested 17 suspects and secured 7 convictions, including 4 life sentences. I just need to add that we have been exploring possibilities as to how SAPS can assist families with civil claims against those responsible for murder of police officers. In fact, a decision has been taken, and our structure, the organizational structure, now reflects a unit that will deal with this, among others, so that those who continue to venture into killing police, not only do they get arrested, processed in courts and sentenced, but we pursue them civilly, because an attack against the police, we continue to say, is an attack against the state, and therefore you must be extremely uncomfortable, if not uncomfortable throughout your lifetime when you do such. Now, arrests and now drug seizures, drugs valued at 77.7 million were seized. Additional 5 suspects were arrested for manufacturing drugs with an estimate of 2 billion on a farm near Groblersdal, as I've indicated above. Firearms and ammunition confiscated, including 84 firearms, 2,069 rounds of ammunition, and 7 explosives. Now, cash in transit, the Directorate responded to 58 CIT incidents, arrested 49 suspects, including 15 who died in shootouts with police. No suspects were granted bail. A total of 115 suspects were arrested for CIT and related crimes, leading to 43 convictions, 6 life sentences, and a combined 931 years of imprisonment. And when we talk about life imprisonment, our prayer is always that it be so. Now, money laundering, 44 suspects were charged with money laundering, with 15 convicted, and 1,513 counts under poker. Financial orders, the Directorate issued 75 freezing and forfeiture orders, totaling 72.98 million. State capture, 35 suspects, individuals, 27, 8 companies were arrested in connection with cases from the Zondo Commission recommendations. 3 cases were finalized, resulting in 1 conviction with a 15-year fraud sentence. Now, there are still a total of 35 suspects in this case called VPS, related matters. For now, there are 4 convictions. Now, on illegal mining remains a significant threat to our economy and public safety in a number of ways. The Ministry's oversight inspection at the Stilfontein shaft has brought renewed focus on this issue. We are satisfied that police, South African Police Service, and the department as a whole, that their actions in Stilfontein are all in keeping with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and the laws thereof. Now, what we want to say is that no legal miner will remain underground forever. Now, we need to optimize, in order to achieve this, our cooperation and coordination with all those concerned, including the private sector, including DMR, including other government departments, and including communities in the affected area and other areas where we are going to be venturing to. This is very important so that we maximize our understanding. We note and welcome the judgment dismissing the application brought forward by Society for the Protection of the Constitution, which sought to, among other things, compel various government departments, including SAPS, to provide all necessary emergency disaster relief to illegal miners, such as food and other things like medical aid, blankets, and so on. But we do want to note that we do understand that in South Africa, lack of jobs and poverty, and even lack of food to eat, sometimes drive people to do things that otherwise, in normal circumstances, they wouldn't have done. We also know that there are 2 non-negotiable provisions of our Constitution: the right to life but also the right to dignity. And therefore, when we perform our duties under Operation Vula, we are aware and cognizant of these rights, but we venture into finding our way to uphold the law, because at the end of the day we have to uphold the law under those circumstances, and limited as they may be. And so we welcome the decision of the High Court today. Now, on foodborne illnesses, which has recently engulfed our country, the role of SAPS will be to and is to uphold the law and enforce it, and support local government, health and environmental officials. We're emphasizing this, that it shouldn't be expected out there that police are going to, at random and outside the law, conduct raids throughout the country. Local government would continue to lead, and environmental officials will continue to lead, with us supporting them in this regard. We commend SAPS in all provinces for work they've done in this regard so far, including arresting those who are found to have breached the law in regard to this matter. When we reflect on this period, we want to mention a few things that, as the we have in this current administration, made certain achievements, and we know them. And the ones that were mentioned are just but a few that we have been able to mention. But we acknowledge challenges that remain. Crime fighting requires relentless determination, collaboration and resourcefulness. The SAPS continues to adapt to evolving criminal tactics and leveraging intelligence and technology to stay ahead. The JCPS cluster needs to focus on harmonizing the country's crime and corruption strategies, while strengthening and honing our organized crime strategies, part thereof. Parallel to this, our architecture to fight crime and corruption needs to receive our attention. Economic growth in South Africa will go a long way in creating an environment of job creation, and thus removing some of the people from streets to occupy themselves ways of survival. The provinces are our engine rooms in the fight against crime. The ministry recently convened a high-level strategy session with SAPS top management, including provincial commissioners, to focus our attention on specific crimes and to step up our actions against identified crimes. And at this stage, I want to conclude, fellow South Africans, our goal is clear: to reduce crime and build safer communities for all. As a ministry, we have confidence in the SAPS, all of them, all South African police, the men and women in blue. We trust them, even at times when some individuals among them prove that they are not worth trusting. We deal with those who embarrass us, those who are deviant in terms of their actions and behavior. But in the majority of cases, the vast majority of SAPS are committed in upholding the law, and we commend them. And we have confidence in National Commissioner General Masimula, sitting there, and we have confidence in our provincial commissioners. To every South African, continue to believe in a better future. Know this: South African Police Service, Ministry, and all the components of our portfolio are committed to make sure South Africa is safer than yesterday, and we will not rest until we achieve peace and security that every citizen desires. The path forward demands unity of purpose, not just among law enforcement agencies, but across all the sectors of society. We just remain vigilant, steadfast, and united in our shared goal. And at this stage, I know that Kamo, but without saying so, it's your turn, sir, to provide details in the stats. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Minister of the Police, the DMs, the National Commissioner, the Head of Secretariat, that is Bui, all the DNCs, or the Head of the DPCI, all the DNCs, and the colleagues on the platform, and members of the media. The unfortunate thing is I had my notes on the paper, which I'm not going to be able to use. I will rely on the screen, and hopefully that I can remember what I had on my notes. But then, without much further ado, let's go into the details of the crime statistics. Yeah, thank you. As is the norm, when we present the quarterly crime statistics, we give an overview of the 5-year trend of the crime that had been reported to the police. And we cover the second quarter, which covers the period from the 1st of July up to the 30th of September. And then give a brief overview in terms of the crimes that have been reported to the South African Police Service. Starting with the contact crimes, we have recorded a decrease in terms of the murders, 400 compared to the previous comparable period. Sexual offenses reduced by 325, and this is made up of the crimes that are indicated here underneath, made up of rape, sexual assault, attempted sexual offenses, and contact sexual offenses. We, however, recorded an increase in terms of the attempted murders of 150, assault with intention to commit grievous bodily harm, an increase of 424. Then common assault, we had a reduction of 626. Common assault, we had common robbery, we had a reduction of 775. And robbery with aggravating circumstances, which is made up of these crimes underneath here, led by carjacking, whereby we recorded a reduction of 562, robbery at residential premises, a reduction of 78, robbery at non-residential premises, a reduction of 1,037, and these three crimes, according to the Victims of Crime Survey, these are the crimes that are most feared, and then we then term them the trio crimes. So the sum total of the reduction of these trio crimes is 1,677. Then we also had a reduction in terms of robberies of cash in transit. We did not have any reported bank robberies, and we also had a reduction in terms of the truck hijacking. On the next slide, we use the mid-year population estimates as obtained from Status A, the 2021 series, whereby we take the per capita crimes whereby the victim is a person, and we take into consideration the total number of people in the country. So when we do that for the murders, we have a per capita murder of 11 per 100,000. I think as we've been explaining, this is an instance whereby if you take the total population of the country and divide it into 100,000 equal portions, the chance of a person ending up being a victim of murder is 11 per 100,000. Then the rate, following the same analogy, it's 16 per 100,000. Don't be surprised because I'm rounding it off as I'm going through the presentation. The attempted murders is 11 per 100,000. Assault GBH is 69 per 100,000. Common assault is 72 per 100,000, and common robbery is 19 per 100,000. Then, completing the table, which gives a summary, we then move on to what attempt a contact-related crimes, made up of the two crimes, that is arson and malicious damage to property, whereby we have recorded the reduction in both the two crimes, or in the two crimes, that is a reduction of 157 and 2,133 respectively, and the sum total of the reduction for the contact-related crimes is 2,290. We then had a clean sheet for the crimes that are related to property, which are termed property-related crimes, leading with a reduction of burglary at non-residential premises. This would include your business premises and also those premises that are not in the normal utilization, are used for residential purposes. This would include your churches, your schools, etc., etc. So it is not only business premises, but it includes churches and, as I've indicated, schools, etc., whereby we had a reduction of 3,202. Burglary at the residential premises, we had a reduction of 3,520. Theft of motor vehicle and motorcycle, we had a reduction of 989. Theft out of or from motor vehicle, a reduction of 2,030. Stock theft, a reduction of 286, and the sum total of the property-related crime reduction is 9,127. Then other serious crimes, starting with the all theft not mentioned elsewhere, we had a reduction of 6,553, and then we had an increase in terms of the commercial crime, and this increase is across all the 9 provinces. The commercial crime are mostly your fraud and your money market related crimes, etc., which make up this category, which we call commercial crime. Then we had a shoplifting, a reduction of 2,960. Other serious crimes, which is the sum total of the 3 crimes that I've mentioned, a reduction of 3,843. And for the 17 community reported crimes, as the minister has indicated, we recorded a reduction of 5.1. Then the next set of crimes, these are called the crime detected as a result of police action, which is a proxy for proactive policing initiative, whereby the police would set up a vehicle checking point and also roadblocks in an effort to retrieve illegal firearms and ammunition. The desired trajectory of change for these crimes, in contrast to the 17 community reported crimes, is that these crimes should be on the increase, meaning that if they are on the increase and indicated as green, it means that more and more firearms and ammunition are taken out of the wrong hands. We have managed to increase illegal possession of firearm and ammunition arrest by 341 counts. Drug-related crimes, these are people who are arrested for their own safety because they are utilizing drugs, etc. And we had 4,626, and include those people that are doing or conducting what you call drug labs, etc. Driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, we had increased by 1,924. Then sexual offenses detected as a result of police action, it has increased by 775, and the sum total of the crime detected as a result of police action increased by 7,668. Now, on these slides that are following, we give a breakdown in terms of the provinces for the 17 community reported crimes as a summary, and we give the provincial breakdown. So I will not go into each and every province, but I will just only indicate the provinces where the particular crime category has recorded an increase. As you can see, for the 9 provinces, the only province which had recorded an increase was the province of KwaZulu-Natal, whereby we had an increase of 60 counts more compared to the previous comparable period, and all the other 8 provinces recorded a reduction. And when you do a month-on-month comparison for the quarter, for the months that cover this quarter, that is starting from July, August and September, we had managed to achieve a reduction across all the 3 months that make up the quarter. Then on the next slide, we look at what it's a proxy for what you might refer to as hotspots, whereby we look at the total number of crimes within this particular period, which of the stations have recorded the highest number of crimes for this particular quarter. We note that the province with the highest number of reported 17 community reported crimes is the Durban Central, which recorded 3,008 counts of 17 community reported crimes. However, it also achieved a reduction of 266. The second one is Durban Central, which recorded 2,111 and also achieved a reduction of 317. Then we had Mitchell's Plain at number 3 with 1,876 counts of 17 community reported crimes and achieved a reduction of 415. And then number 5 is Johannesburg Central. I think we have an increase at number 4 for Park Road with 1,867, and then the increase is 69, and the 5th is Johannesburg Central with 1,861, and the reduction there is 223. The appropriate way to read this table is that on the first column, we indicate that particular station when you take all the stations in the country, and then you sort in terms of the highest number of crimes that have been reported in that particular station. We sort by descending order, meaning the one that is at the top will be the station which had recorded the highest number of 17 community reported crimes. And then on the second column, we look at that station but then contextualize it within the particular province in which that station is situated in. So most likely the station that is number 1 at the national is also likely to be number 1 within the province. However, as you can see, especially on Mitchell's Plain at the national level is at number 3. However, within the province, the Western Cape, is this at number 2. So I hope that clarifies the way in which this table should be read. Then moving on to we started with the 17 community reported crimes. Now we are at the contact crimes, which are those crimes that are made up of murder, attempted murder, total sexual offenses, robbery, residential and non-residential, and also your assaults and grievous bodily harm. As I've indicated, I will only touch on those provinces that had recorded increases for the current quarter. And then these provinces are made up of KwaZulu-Natal, which had recorded an increase of 416 counts. The second province which had recorded an increase was the Free State with 15 counts, and then the third is the Eastern Cape with 6 counts. However, the total number of crimes that had been reported within those particular provinces are indicated in the second row. That if you use that analogy, we have KwaZulu-Natal having reported 28,446 counts when compared to the 28,030 that was reported in the previous comparable period, and the difference is 416 to the red, and the percentage change is 1.5. At the bottom there, we have the percentage contribution of that particular province when you take into consideration those particular crimes. As one can see, KwaZulu-Natal contributed 17.7% to the national total, Gauteng 26.6%, Eastern Cape 10.9%, Free State 6.2%, and then the rest can be read from the Western Cape contributed 17.4%. Then on this slide, we look at the top 30 contact crime stations. The stations that are in yellow are the stations that we monitor throughout the financial year in terms of their progress in and out of the top 30 stations, because there will be resources allocated to those, and there will be interventions, and then we will monitor throughout the course of the financial year whether the interventions that are happening within those stations are yielding results, etc. So these are the stations that will be monitored for the 2024-2025 for contact crime stations. These are the ones in yellow. Then the contact crime station is Mfuleni in the Western Cape at number 1 and Delft at number 2. These two stations are both in the Western Cape. At number 3 we had Inanda, number 4 is Johannesburg Central, and number 5 is Nyanga. And these are the stations that make up the top 5 in terms of contact crimes or crimes against the person. Then we look at the crime or at the causative factors. We've indicated that, as the Minister was indicating, the crime that have been focused on, you mentioned the murders and the attempted murders, rapes, etc. So we also went into trying to understand what are the causative factors of these high levels of murder that we have observed in the current quarter. So we took a sample of 6,323 counts of the murders that had been reported to the South African Police Service, and then we tried to look into what were the causative factors for these particular murders. We found that 1,069 were attributable to arguments, misunderstanding, and road rage. 386 were as a result of a robbery. We also had 372 of the murders as a result of vigilantism or mob justice. 221 were gang-related, and the majority of those that were termed to be gang-related are in the province of the Western Cape. 87 were taxi-related, and then we also had 45 of the murders that were law enforcement and security guards in the line of duty. And if you these exclude police officers, and if you were to add the police officers that were killed, this number would rise to somewhere in the region of 64 or 63, meaning that we are losing more and more law enforcement personnel that covers your JMPD, police, etc. Then we also had 19 of the murders that were rape-related. That will be an instance where a person is raped and subsequently killed. Then we looked at the selected places of occurrence for the murders. I will only focus on the murders. I think the rest of the crimes can be read off from the slide. We used the same sample size of 6,323, and we looked at the places of occurrence. In the previous slide, we were looking at the causative factors. Why were these people murdering each other? Now we look at where did these murders occur. We found that 3,632 happened at a public place. 1,735 of the murders happened at the residences of the perpetrator, victim, including residents known by victim, perpetrators, etc. This might be an indicator that there's an element of people that are acquainted to each other, or there might be a social element within the causative or the places where these murders are happening. Then we also have 281 of the murders that had taken place at liquor outlets. Then I'll just pick and choose those that we think we need to be aware of. We also had 30 of the murders that had taken place at petrol stations or petrol premises, including ATM, convenience stores, etc. And the majority of these that happen mostly at petrol stations have that element of a kind of a heat. We also had 13 of the murders that had happened at educational institutions that include your schools, universities, colleges, and daycare center. And 9 of the murders happened at abandoned buildings. Then on the next slide, we look at the crimes against women and children. For this category of the population, we look at the murders, attempted murders, and assault GBH. We observed that there were 76 counts more of women that were murdered when compared to the previous comparable period. And attempted murders, there was an increase of 53, and we had a reduction of 35 counts when compared to the previous period for women. For the children's side, that will be your both boys and girls between the ages of 0 to 17. We unfortunately had increases across the three crimes that we are looking at. 22 more murders for children, 129 more murders, attempted murders for children, and also 124 more assault GBH committed against children. Then for the provincial comparison, the provinces which recorded increases in terms of the murder is your Northwest with 12 counts more compared to the previous comparable period. And then Limpopo, we had 6 counts more compared to the previous comparable period, and also the Eastern Cape with 3 counts more. All the other provinces, the 6 that I have not mentioned exclusively, recorded decreases. And then on the next slide, we look at the per capita for murder. That is instances where you take into consideration the population within that particular province and the total number of murders that had been reported within that particular province. For the Eastern Cape, we have observed that the per capita murder for Eastern Cape is 20 per 100,000, and that is the highest per capita for the country when you take into consideration the 9 provinces. The second is the Western Cape with 14 per 100,000, KwaZulu-Natal at 12 per 100,000, Gauteng at 9 per 100,000, and the province with the lowest per capita murder is the province of Limpopo with 4 per 100,000. And this is a graphical representation of the trend that we have indicated in the previous slide, whereby we did the same computation and we simply indicate in terms of the lightness or the deepness of the color to indicate the severity of the per capita for that particular provinces. One can see Limpopo is the lightest, which is the one that had the least per capita murder, and the province with the highest per capita murder is the Eastern Cape with 19 or 20 per 100,000, and these are the median population estimates that we have used to compute these per capita murders. And this is just a direction, it's not statistics, it's just northwest and south. Then we look at the stations that had the highest murders. The station with the highest murders in terms of the raw numbers, not per capita, is the province of Inanda with 81. Number 2 is Philippi East. Number 3 is KwaZakele. Number 4 is Delft. And number 5 is Nyanga. Of these top 5 stations, the top 3 have recorded increases, whereby Inanda recorded an increase of 5 counts more, Philippi East an increase of 28 counts more, KwaZakele 29 counts more, and then Delft and Nyanga recorded reductions of 12 and 7 respectively. I think I've already touched on this table, how different it is from the table that I have previously indicated for the causative factors, is that these causative factors are now distributed in terms of the provinces. And I have indicated that for the murders that had been termed gang-related, the 221, the majority was in the Western Cape, whereby it recorded 177 of the murders that were attributed to gang-related. Gauteng had 24, and then the Eastern Cape had 18. And then when one look at the taxi-related, of the 87 murders that were attributable to taxi-related, Gauteng was the highest province with 56 counts. And those that were as a result of misunderstanding or arguments, the 1,069 that we have indicated, most of these were indicated to have taken place in the province of the Eastern Cape, which is 325 attributable to arguments and misunderstanding. And the second highest province that indicated the causative factor of arguments and misunderstanding was the Western Cape with 228. Then this slide again is just a similar slide, but this time around it gives you the places where these murders have taken place. Then we also had instances whereby more people were killed in one setting. And then again, this is just to emphasize the issue of when one look at the murders, one need to also keep in mind that some of these murders, it's murders whereby many people are killed in one incident, and we are all familiar with the story of what happened in Lusikisiki, whereby 18 people were killed in one instance. And then we also had the incident in Chanella, whereby 8 people were killed, and this particular incident in Chanella also resulted in 12 attempted murders. Then we also had 7 victims that were killed in High Flats, 6 in Umlazi, 5 in Phokeng, and we also had 5 in Brongorspruit, which also resulted in attempted murders. And I remember this one of the ones in Brongorspruit. The people were suspected to be Boko Haram members who went to then try to extort money from the construction site. Unfortunately, they met their demise there. Then there's an issue of the weapon of choice that is used in terms of the commission of these murders. And as one can see from the sample size that we have drawn of 6,323, it was indicated that the weapon of choice that was used in the commission of these murders was a firearm. It had been used in 2,976 counts. And again, we need to keep in mind, in the back of the mind, that this does not imply that there is a one-to-one relationship between the total number of bodies and the firearm that had been used, as we have indicated that there was an incident in Lusikisiki and all these multiple murders that we had seen where more people were killed in one incident. Again, it's not to say that there were 2,976 firearms that were used to kill 2,976 people. Then on the next slide, we then look at the matter of the police members. We had 17 of these matters that had been, it's a reduction of 17 from the previous comparable period. And then we had those that were killed on duty. I think 2 were responding to a scene. 1 was at the scene where there was a cross exchange of firearm with the people that were committing a crime. And one thing that we also need to take into consideration is that even though these murders are committed by police officers in the execution of their duty, in terms of the crime statistics, these also add to the number of murders that have been reported in the country, and we seriously need to look into this issue in terms of should these murders add to those numbers or should they be excluded from this, because these are law enforcement people that are executing their duties. But unfortunately, in terms of the acts, several acts, we had to add them to the murders. I think, can you check the time for me? We then look at the, okay, I think I need to hurry up now. We then look at the rapes. In terms of the rapes, we had provinces that recorded increases was the province of Mpumalanga with 42 counts and Gauteng with 75 counts. And then the rest of the provinces recorded decreases. That is in terms of the rapes. Then per capita, the province with the highest per capita rape was the province of the Free State, which recorded 24 per 100,000, followed by the Eastern Cape with 23 per 100,000, and then the Northwest with 19 per 100,000, and so was the Northern Cape. And then in terms of the graphical representation, we see that the province with the highest per capita rape for the whole country, the province with the highest per capita rape is the Free State. Then the second highest is the province of the Eastern Cape. Then the stations, the first 2 are stations from KwaZulu-Natal, that is your Inanda and Umlazi. The third one at the national level is Thohoyandou, and station number 4 and 5 is Mfuleni and Mthatha, that are in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape respectively, and all the top 5 stations have recorded increases in terms of the number of rapes that have been reported in the current quarter. Then looking at the sample of 7,165 in terms of the places of occurrence for this rape, over 60% of these rapes have taken place at the residence of the perpetrator or the victim, including residents known by the victim. That is 4,303. And so one can easily see that there is an element of the people that are raping and being victims of rape, that they know the perpetrators, and in some instances it includes family members, friends, and neighbors. Then we also had those rapes, 106 that had taken place at educational institutions. We also had 80 that had taken place at abandoned buildings. Then looking at the issue of alcohol and drugs in the commission of the murders, we had seen that 227 of the murders, it was indicated that the perpetrator had, or the victim had used alcohol during the commission of the murder. And we also noticed that 1,466 rape incidents, it was indicated that it involved the use of alcohol. Those murders that had taken place exclusively at the place where alcohol has been indicated to be sold, we had 281 murders that had taken place at confirmed places where alcohol is being sold, like your tavern, shebeen, pubs, and nightclub. And we also had 3,493 of the assault GBAs that had taken place at such facilities, and also 62 rapes where alcohol is being sold. Then the murders and rape at educational premises, the yellow color indicates the rape and the blue indicate the murders. We had 77 rapes that had taken place at school and 13 of the rapes that had taken place at school. Then we also had 15 of the rapes taking place at tertiary institutions, then 8 at daycare center and 6 at specialized schools. Then we then look at who were the victims and the perpetrators in terms of the murders. We saw that at the school level, 3 of the perpetrators were learners and also 3 of the victims were learners. Then this is a three-way table whereby the first column gives you the premises, the second gives you the perpetrator, and then this one gives you the victim. So that is how this table should be read. Then at the rapes, we then, those that had taken place at educational premises, we saw that there were 77 rapes that had taken place at schools, and the breakdown per province has been indicated. And of these provinces, the 2 provinces with the highest number of rapes that had taken place at educational premises or schools was Gauteng with 16 and KwaZulu-Natal with 13. Then this gives it's again another three-way table whereby if we look at the schools, we see that 52 of the perpetrators were learners, and so were 52 of the victims of rape were also learners. Then on the next slide, we use selected domestic violence as a proxy for rape. We see that in instances whereby there's some kind of a domestic relationship between the victim and the perpetrator, there were 207 murders that was indicated that there was this kind of relationship, and the victims was female in 106 and then the male were in 101. For the rape we had 809 and the victims for the rape were 765, and for male we had 44. Then I'll skip the sexual assault and then move into the carjacking. For carjacking, the only 2 provinces that recorded increases was the province of the Eastern Cape and the Northern Cape, which increased by 4 and 2 respectively. And the stations that are in the top 5 in terms of carjacking was Philippi East, Delft, Orange Farms, Nyanga, and Gugulechi, making the top 5. Then these are the type of vehicles that are most likely to end up being hijacked. The majority of these are sedans, hatchback, and coupes, whereby it was indicated in 2,501, and 1,830 were buggies. Robbery at residential premises, only 2 provinces recorded decreases, and these was the province of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, and all the other provinces recorded increases. Then I will skip this slide and go to robbery at non-residential premises. The only province that recorded an increase in terms of robbery at non-residential premises was the Northern Cape, which recorded 1 count higher. Then robberies of cash in transit, we had 4 provinces that had recorded increases. That is your Free State with 4 counts more, KwaZulu-Natal 3 counts more, and so was the Western Cape with 3 counts more. And then we also had Northwest, which had 1 count more in terms of robbery of cash in transit. And the breakdown in terms of the robberies of cash in transit, we had 18 incidents where the armored vehicle was on the road, and the breakdown was that 9 was in KwaZulu-Natal, and then 3 in the Eastern Cape, 2 in Gauteng, and then where there were cross pavements, we had I was initially given 45 minutes, so I set the timer to 35. So in terms of what I was allocated, I still have 10 minutes to wrap up. So it's not to say that I must stop. We had 15 that were cross pavements made up of Gauteng, Western Cape, Northwest, and then we also had 1 that was when the armored vehicle was static, and 6 were at the merchant retail. Then this is just the breakdown. Truck hijacking, only 2 provinces recorded increases, which was your Northwest and Limpopo, 1 count each. Then the stations with the highest in terms of truck hijacking mostly are in the province of Gauteng, like the top 4 are all in the Gauteng province. That is your number 1 at Alberton, Kempton Park, Orange Farm, and Heidelberg. And that trend is broken by station number 5, which is Swartkop in the Eastern Cape, and then the trend continues all the way up to station number 11, whereby the provinces, the stations are all in the Gauteng province. Then we also had the phenomenon of kidnapping. Here we look at the crime that had been reported as kidnapping, and within that kidnapping we look into the comments that had been indicated to determine whether there was a ransom demanded or extortion in that instance, and also whether there was human trafficking. We looked at a sample size of 3,995, and we found that ransom was demanded in 180 of these instances, and then 113 of these 180 was in the province of Gauteng. For those that kidnapping related, that were extortion, of the 29, 15 was in the province of Gauteng, and we also had 5 in the Western Cape. Of course, there will be the instance whereby when you extract extortion as a crime code itself, you might come to different numbers, but these ones are extortions which also included kidnapping. Those that were ransom related, the provinces that recorded increases is Eastern Cape, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest, and the Western Cape. Then we also have these what are called the core diversions. These are instances whereby the resources of the police are required to go and police other instances which are not necessarily within the core mandate of the police. This would include instances like when the police escort exam papers, when they go and observe at matches to ensure that the people that are watching matches, etc., do not end up harming themselves. So this gives a breakdown in terms of those instances. The orange color indicate those instances which were termed to be peaceful. That was in 1,176 instances, and these were mostly in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which indicated 30. 436 of these instances were indicated to be unrest related. And this is more of a summary in terms of when one look at the national and then the provinces for the respective crime. We've seen that there were 400 murders less for the national picture, and then when you look at the provinces, these are the total number of murders that had been reported within that respective province. However, the color coding indicates whether that province had recorded an increase or a decrease. If you were to take the Eastern Cape, the 1,315 does not mean that there were 1,315 more murders in the Eastern Cape. It simply indicates that there were 1,315 murders in the Eastern Cape, and this number is an increase when compared to the previous comparable period. I think we can be in a position to read this table without me going into each and every province, each and every crime. And then I believe that this is just a continuation of that first slide. And then this is the summarized version in terms of the provinces, whereby you look at the province, take, for instance, Gauteng. Of the 17 community reported crimes, Gauteng decreased 15 of these crimes and only recorded an increase in 2 instances. I think this is the same analogy, and the Minister, National Commissioner, and all the members of the media, this is where I stop. And again, this presentation will be loaded onto the SAPS website, and those that have smart phones, they can scan the QR code, and then it will take them directly to where they can be in a position to download the full presentation, including the drop-down menus that we have provided in case one wants to see a particular province or a particular station. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the SAPS Crime Registrar, Major General Sikukuni. We are going to open it up to questions now. I will firstly have to ask that the questions be responded to from the podium, since we have all the microphones here. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a roving mic that I will then hand over, and you can then pose your questions. May I kindly ask that you just state your name as well as the media house that you represent, and then you can ask your question. Also, the Minister did acknowledge a number of our entity heads that are here, so if you do have questions for the entity heads, please just specify. By a show of hands, can I just see who has questions? Okay. I see one hand over there, Newsroom Africa. Then I see Heidi. Then we've got 4 hands, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, those are the hands that I'm going to take. We can start with the first hand there.
Thank you very much. It's Zianda Ngobo from Newsroom Africa. I'm not sure who will respond to this exactly, but the focus for me at the moment, firstly, a clarity-seeking question: have those 6 vacancies in crime intelligence been filled out? But also a response to the News 24 reports about this, back and forth between, Dumsani Kumalo and suspended Diani Hlungwane. And the reason why I'm asking this is because in as much as there are some improvements with these statistics, there is some sort of a decline. So, for instance, with the Lusikisiki matter, where's the community-based intelligence, for an example, that would have been able to detect the movement of such big arms? You don't just move, firearms and it's not detected. So that's why I'm asking about crime intelligence. Then the coordination, the Minister did actually acknowledge that there needs to be a better coordination within the justice and security cluster. In particular, again with Lusikisiki, there was a report in the Sunday Times that one of the masterminds planned it while behind prison cells. That's also an indication of the police might be doing the work, but you're now being let down by correctional services. And then lastly, in terms of the recovery of arms and ammunition, I did not hear anything about the unlicensed firearms, because a lot of these crimes, as we've known and seen, especially with political killings and with that task team that was set up in 2018, a lot of these arms are not actually collected. So what intervention is being made to deal with that? Because that actually makes it quite difficult to resolve some of these cases. And linked to that then, I mean, what is the SAPS doing to deal with the scourge of hitmen, otherwise known as Inkabi, because now it's become a fully fledged industry, and that is exactly something that I've actually noticed in the presentation seems to be a theme that is continuously recurring. I think that's enough from me. Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's Heidi Jokos from ENCA. I know the Minister did speak about the fact that you welcome the court judgment with regards to Stilfontein, but what is the actual plan there, if there's any updates with regards to getting those zamazamas out? And then what do you think has contributed, or what can you attribute the decline in murder and rape cases? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Ngosi Khona Malinga Mnisi from Pi FM. I've just got a couple of questions and I ask that you bear with me. The first, again, speaks to the situation in Stilfontein. We, of course, know that a number of the individuals there are from outside countries. Are you engaging perhaps with officials from those countries? Because every time we deal with such a situation, when we know the prevalence of foreign nationals, most of whom are often undocumented in these illegal mining operations, it seems as if our neighboring countries are just so quiet and they're not willing to, lend a helping hand to you as South African authorities to try and intervene in the situation. So are you, one, engaging with them? And perhaps if there is that particular engagement, what does it essentially entail? And again, on the Stilfontein, there's other elements now creeping in of extortionists. Just in terms of the plan that you have you given yourself a time frame? How long are you going to be there? It's costing about, we're told, R1 million a day, particularly with, these experts and this machinery being brought in. How long are you anticipating that your operation in Stilfontein is going to last for? And what do you essentially intend? What's the goal where that operation is concerned? Do you believe that you will be successful in getting those hundreds of so-called zamazamas out from underground? When it comes to foodborne illnesses, and I make appreciation that the Minister did touch on it, but I think we all know now that we're in an absolute crisis where this thing is concerned. And the police's role, one, what will your role essentially be come the deadline of the 21 days? As the police, what will you then do when you're now on day 22? And in the interministerial teams that you may be a part of, are you perhaps, in fact, calling for perhaps the closure of all of these plaza shops until this registration process is concluded? Because we're dealing with a situation where there is this plan. Various ministers are responsible for various elements of it, but children are still dying. The latest is, again, in the community of Deep Kloof. So, as the police, are you perhaps not saying in these teams, to Kokta even, for example, close these shops down, let's fix this registration, and then devise a plan of how do we go ahead? My final question speaks to issues of investigations, particularly those that are conducted by the Hawks, where it pertains to high-profile matters, and the most recent one involving Mr. Zizi Kodwa. Do the Hawks believe that they thoroughly investigate some of these matters? Because here you have a situation where a docket is handed over to the NPA. At initial phase, they decide to prosecute. Then the accused take it on review, and then the DPP will say, in fact, no, we're not going to prosecute. So on the end of the investigative element, do your investigators believe that they do a good enough job and a thorough job to ensure that we aren't having instances where the NPA essentially then goes back after carefully perhaps then perusing a particular docket? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Griselda Lewis from SABC Television News. Anyone perhaps would want to take these questions related to some of the questions that my colleagues asked already. Minister, you touched on the 19 undocumented foreign nationals in Mozambique in Pilgrim's Rest that were arrested relating to illegal mining. We're sitting with that situation in Stilfontein at the moment. Your statement indicated that there are 14 people that have since resurfaced. Do we have an indication of exactly how many people are still underground? I've not heard much of that come out at this particular stage. And relating to these spaza shops, the President had set a deadline for when these spaza shops are supposed to be registered. There is a fear at the moment, and in the conversations that my colleagues have had with those on the ground, that if this deadline is not met, you might see some kind of discontent that will be in these communities, and it falls round about the festive season, the December period. So are police, preparing for that eventuality? Because there seems to be an indication that there are those who want to participate in this process, but those obviously who are illegally in the country would not want to show themselves up with any kind of documentation that would expose their illegality in South Africa. So are you part of the festive season operations looking at any eventuality that may lead to some kind of unrest, in particular in our townships, relating to the registration of these spaza shops? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we'll have Minister respond to some of the questions and thereafter indicate as to who will respond to the remainder of the questions. Minister, if I can ask you to just take the podium. Yes, Minister, all the microphones are here. I did mention that in the beginning. But the audio feeds into these ones here.
Okay, thank you very much. First one, I'm not going to be answering all the questions. For instance, the one on intelligence vacancies, 1, 2 cases in court, will be answered by the National Commissioner. Now, on my side, first one to be responded to is the need for closer coordination. We, especially with correctional affairs, correctional services, and then justice, and then home affairs. We were being practical on this matter to say we can't be a country with high levels of crime and therefore engaging, as we are doing as ministry, police, high-level or top brass police in the country and saying, drive crime down, and let's do everything that we need to do to drive crime down, and sit and spend many, many hours strategizing and doing all sorts of work, and then in turn chasing all these criminals, including very dangerous criminals, arrest these people, get them to courts, and finally get them to what is supposed to be their resting place, called correctional services, only for them to get popular there in one way or the other, as it happens, and they befriend some officials there, and some of them get whatever they get to gratify, as we get stories informally, some of these correctional services. And they get cell phones, and they get favors that finally get them out. In some cases, it's in the form of parole, lenient application of parole laws, and in some cases, in whatever way, failure to supervise them when they finally get that parole. So we've held a meeting to say, let's have a meeting, let's discuss this matter because it is facing South Africa in the eye. How do you find joy that a criminal who has records like murder has been arrested and so on, and now in the correctional service facility, only to be confronted by him again on the allegation that that crime is committed by the same criminal? Unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And there can't be any excuse, including any level of corruption in correctional services. It must be fought. It must be overcome. And we engaged along these lines, and we're hoping that they're working on that, but it's unacceptable. Now, we did say to South Africa, in Lusikisiki, even in the early stages, there may be a case or at some point where somebody in correctional services becomes one of the suspects in the matter of 18 people. Now, the Sunday Times then come with headlines and say, I'm a monster. And when you read that on Sunday morning, who is this monster? Who is saying so? It is a very is a very person who was sentenced for murdering a policeman, now sitting there. And you get a chill when you get that there may have been consideration to give him parole, let alone a chill when a person is said to have been saying, I'm a monster, as it turns out, which we were aware of during the investigation. These stories were coming out, and so on. That is chilling, it's painful, and it's unacceptable. Unlicensed firearm, you are saying, Zianda, what happens? So there needs to be a closer practical coordination, and there must be consequences, because if, for instance, this one was is true, if that he was coordinating, as we often collect, in a facility, correctional services facility, Wellington, with 5 cell phones at some point and 2 at some point, and indeed found, if he gets found to have done this beyond any doubt, who is responsible? Who is responsible? Right down from locking the door to those who are responsible. There must be consequences in this, and we will expect that there will be consequences. Unlicensed firearms, most of the instances where we report that police seized firearms, either after the confrontation or before the confrontation, when they go to places after tip-offs or intelligence and so on, most of these firearms that get collected there are unlicensed. And I was talking about Mpumalanga now, that one individual driving a buggy was found with 8 AK-47s, unlicensed. 1 R1, 1 R5, 1 R4, which is an army issue, and all of that. Unlicensed, all of those. And ammunition, even F1, which is an instrument of war. So most of these confrontation resulting into firearms collected, they're unlicensed. But what is our deliberate move to get to deal with this matter? Operation Chanella. Each time these operations get underway, it has never happened that police don't get unlicensed firearms. they do. I made an example of a recent case of KwaZulu-Natal. You may have seen the TikTok where young boys were shooting in the air in a dwelling place. Those are the people who have been collected, confronted, and arrested by police. There were 5 of them there. 4 of them had guns, 9mm, all unlicensed. So in all these instances, even in CITs, the caches, we normally collect unlicensed firearms. But in another move, we have agreed that we need to sit and discuss and strategize. And among other people that we've recently met is country South Africa. They spoke at length and passionately about their wish and prayer that South Africa be move along those lines, and we listened. And so we are out to engage. I like people who are professors. One of them was a professor. Those professors say, come to us because we are paid to think. Ask us a question and we'll think about it. And therefore we'll be engaging further to say, what are the ways, and compare ourselves and look at what other countries do to deal with firearms. But we're not going to be just dealing with them internally. We know that some of these firearms come from outside. Where and how and when. So the whole value chain. Now, Heidi, Valamkoti, what's your plan? Our plan is to remove unlawful mining in South Africa. So we're not even the unlawful miners are a second fiddle. The first fiddle is unlawful mining in the country. That's our target. But then behind that there are miners, unlawful as they are. That's what we want to do. So when they say Valamkot, they actually mean Vala unlawful mining in the country. Because this has many consequences. One of the consequences is you don't know how deep, you don't know how wide. All these, you may know a shaft, how far it goes, but then from the shaft, where it ends sideways, you no longer know how far, and you no longer know how safe, and so on. And you don't know what will happen one day. These things go underground, under cities, under towns, under residential areas. They go up to there. Who knows? You only get a story. It's one thing to stand on top and then you get told, hey, you see from here, where we are here, where we are, hey, you might go up to whatever, up to Jamestown and so on from here. So you must come to a conclusion that this thing is dangerous. And therefore it needs to be stopped. But we are saying, so what's our plan? Stop unlawful or illegal mining in the country as a whole, including in Stilfontein. And how do you stop that? Whoever is doing it unlawful. And our job as police is to uphold the law by ensuring that no one engages on unlawful activities. And that is what we are doing there. Now, that's our plan. So if you want practically, you remember that we said after engaging all the role players and stakeholders there, we said, no, we need to take this a step further. Get people who have done this before with expertise and relevant instruments, and we engage them, and they agreed to partner with us. And they are doing it. They've started doing that to lower their instruments, check what they see, advise, and so on. And we're planning a meeting this week to get them to give us their results and coordinate more intelligence on this, get more intelligence information, get the reports as they are reported to have spoken those last 14. So our plan is to intensify our action to ensure that no one engages further on any unlawful mining in that particular area, Stilfontein. So that's our plan. Now, you then say, you talk about rape and murder. I can't remember your specific question on this. What is what?
What has contributed to the
Oh, yes. What has contributed to the decline? I would say don't be shy to say police are at work. Because if you are shy to do so, who is doing it? You and I know. You know, we are not doing it. So you and I know the people who are doing this, who are fighting out there, even when we are asleep. People who are doing this thing, pursuing criminals, even at the risk of their lives. It is the police. So police are doing their work, and we commend them for doing their job. All we are doing is to ask them to step up, to intensify their job. And we are one on that. Like we were saying, we've had a meeting recently to say, please step up, intensify the war against crime. And I'm happy to see a representative of eThekwini municipality here who commands police there amongst us. We are saying step up and intensify the fight against crime. So police are doing the job and they are at work. And if you think they are done or if you think they are tired, we haven't seen all. Now, so rape and murder should be down. But we are calling on communities, the so-called men who are doing this, that I think the country is closing up on these matters, and we should mobilize and intensify our rejection of people who rape. This is a luxury sin on earth. There is no one who suffers any disease or any problem or any headache because you haven't raped. It's something that you can't describe. What is it what type of a person would actually get involved in this and so on? And therefore, they must be rejected and they must be confronted and they must be fought. Any discussion with neighboring countries, yes, we do. There's an outstanding meeting with the Minister of Police in Lesotho. We were supposed to hold it in November. We were not able to. We think that we will be able to do that at the beginning of the year with more detail now of what we now have accumulated. There have been meetings. Even my predecessor had meetings with Mozambique, among other countries and others. But look, some of these, all these people, remember that their numbers are higher than our own people in terms of involvement in the illegal mines. When you lift your head beyond the people that you see in front of you, you could see that the source, the mover, is poverty. And lack of economic growth and jobs that people can do in their countries and also in our country and so on. So we need to step up the source, the cause, the main root. And then, of course, that does not mean that in the meantime we'll allow unlawfulness. It will never happen. And so we are engaging them and we'll still intensify our engagement on all fronts to stop these crimes. But you might have heard that those who come from Stilfontein recently are talking about some people who are heavily armed, and they identify that they are from Lesotho. This is information that police had, in any case, some time ago, and now it's getting verified, and we're happy that it is verified as correct. And these are all the matters that we need to discuss. Now, how long is Stilfontein? What's our goal? I think we have already stated. we don't want to belong in Stilfontein. We want to be as short as possible. That's why we're going there to make assessments and step and intensify our activities to get them out. Whether they are armed or not armed, we want to get everybody out from Stilfontein, and therefore, as far as we're concerned, it's going to be as short as possible, but it will depend on the level of success as we move on. Now, the role of police as far as food poisoning is concerned, what do you do after the deadline? Our role is to uphold the law. Our role is to arrest people when they don't, when they commit breaches. This thing comes from, it involves illegal minors. It involves immigration laws. When people, for instance, employ illegal immigrants in South Africa, they must know they are breaching the law. That's why they are being arrested. And that's one. But going on to spaza shops, the regulations are hosted by local government. And local government has COGTA as a department both at provincial and national level. And those are the first line in the implementation of regulations. And where whoever in spaza shops fail to comply, they will then invite us as law enforcement, and we will do so without any hesitation. But we're saying, and we want to insist on this, local government officials, Department of Local Government, people who deal with environmental health, inspectors and all of that, and health, must lead the way. They must be the front line, and then we back them and we support them. It's not the other way around, because police are not trained in health-related matters to the extent that health officials are, and those who are hosting regulations. But we're there to support them. But we are discouraging an assumption that police are going to be all over and taking the lead. They are going to be up front, they are going to be there, but we want relevant departments to take the lead. And so what happens after deadline, local government will tell us who is breaching what after the 21st. They will say we've closed, and then this person has not registered, but they are operating, and we'll go for them because they've been breach of the law, which is our job. Closing, are we not advising that spaza shops be closed up until the deadline? Ordinarily, if you lift your head and you see that children have gone to this and that spaza shop, bought something, and they got sick and they died, your reaction is to close all of them. But there's other side, as it would be on all other matters. People regard spaza shops as a form of economy, especially in townships and in rural areas. And it's true, because some of the spaza shops employ people and they provide them with a living, a means to live, and all of that. So you can't just close with your eyes closed, and we can't advise with our eyes closed. But we rely on people, local government, who license them, small business department. They are there to advise on the matter. So the answer, we're not advising, except like President would have said, that a spaza shop that is related or associated with table force or this organophosphate issue that would have killed somebody. it would need to be closed until authorities that are relevant say so. But we're not out there in darkness whispering to them, please close all of them and so on, because it's not our call. Then the other one is high-profile arrest in the NPA. What do we do when NPA turns around? Well, our job is to uphold the law, is to arrest transgressors or suspects, as it were, as an operational word, suspects, bring them to the courts. Once they are there, it's a different matter, it's a different authority. We would have pursued somebody based on allegations, based on suspicions, and then until we lay our hands on them, and then we say, but if NPA then say, no, we don't find whatever they say, we don't have means to overturn that. But, as I say, in some cases, it would be a matter that would have required close coordination. Like they would say, you didn't cross a T, and therefore we release this person. And we didn't do this and that and so on. So we require this closer coordination because we have the same aim, fight crime in the country, and therefore tell us before we go to court that we need to close a T or we need to cross a T or something like that, and so on. But we do also expect that this close coordination, I mean, in Stilfontein, a lot of people that are being arrested, we don't have facilities to keep them. And we expect that Department of Justice would create special means to process these people as quick as possible. And even Operation Chanella, we arrest many people and we take them to courts. And we need to derive satisfaction that our sister departments do process them accordingly, out of waiting and so on, because it's in the interest of the country to do so. And for that reason, we'll have to talk on an ongoing basis. Griselda, how many are still remaining in Stilfontein? I don't know. And I'm not going to make an effort to know. What I know is that, for instance, 3 of them, when the other ones came up to the surface, we were told, when they saw police, 3 of them ran back to the mine. That I know, 3, because that's the report. I do know that, according to the reports, there are some who are down there and so on. So what are we determined to do? Get everybody out. And we're going to intensify our activities to get everybody out. And we're not going to be smiling. It is going to show, especially now that we are free of the burden of the case that was taken against us. It doesn't mean that underground thing is not. It shouldn't be hid out while you are creating a dangerous situation for the country, especially for people who are there. But we mind. Do we mind about poverty that may drive people to those? Yes. That's why JCBS invited Minister Mantashe of Minerals and to talk about this matter. And he is leading, he's going to be leading all of us in terms of applying their mind as DMR in terms of what you do with these mines and that have been left over and all of that, as he did indicate that there is something that they are looking at. But that doesn't mean that it's Stilfontein just as a whole in South Africa. And it doesn't mean that we are now talking about allowing those illegal people to continue to do what they are doing. So we are saying you can't engage on unlawful activities, hoping that because there is this and that, I'll be allowed to do that. It doesn't work like that. DMR has a weight on that. Last one any fear of overspill or eventual reaction by people who own spaza shops if they fail to register, and what is that we are doing? South African police are ready. They are always ready to ensure that all the people in South Africa uphold the law. Whether they are angry or not angry for something, they are ready. But we don't even think that it should come to that because the authorities responsible for registering people would be aware that there is still a queue there. And if necessary, like Telkom, Eskom has done, you are guided by what's happening, what's obtaining on the ground, and then you extend. So because the aim, the objective overall is to get them registered, not to prevent them while they're in the queue. And we hope that reasoning will prevail. But we don't think that there should be any need. But I don't want to say they will catch us unaware. We are unprepared. We're always prepared to ensure that law is upheld. I think General Masimla should then be allowed to respond to those matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good day, Minister, Deputy Ministers, and colleagues in the media. The question around vacancies at crime intelligence, we are in the process of filling those posts. The Brigadier Hlongwane, you speak about him being suspended, which I'm not aware of. I'm aware that he's not at work, but not that he's suspended. What I know is either he's on sick leave or whatever. The commander will know exactly what is happening. And I'm sure he should be one of those filling those posts if he was at work. So that is the response I have. With regard to the firearms, or maybe still on the same matter, you spoke about about the fight between Abu Hlongwane and Lieutenant General Khumalo. We, as South African Police Service, you don't know about this fight. Maybe they are fighting him. It's possible. But all he's doing is just executing his job, making sure that where there is a need to discipline a member or an officer, and he does exactly that. He takes action if there is a need to. But it's unfortunate if the action is taken on some that they'll respond in a different way. So that's what is happening in that environment. With regard to the recovery of firearms, for the second quarter, which we are busy with now, we recovered over 1,440 firearms and ammunition, which I do not have at this stage, but it's over 3,000, which we recovered during that time. It is all illegal firearms. And we have to take note, some illegal firearms do have serial numbers, some don't have the serial numbers, but those are the firearms that we recovered from all the operations during the period of the quarter. So basically I think those are the outstanding ones. The Minister have answered the rest.
Thank you, National Commissioner. We can then have General Libya just respond to that issue on the efficiency of the DPCI.
Thank you very much. The question that I needed to be touching on is from Munisi of Kaya FM with regard to the decision that was taken in Johannesburg, which to be reviewed. Firstly, I need to be indicating that emanating from the Zondo Commission, there are certain matters that the DPCI is conducting investigation on. In terms of the way in which the DPCI conducts its investigation is that it works closely with a prosecutor assigned to the matter. So the case itself was reported in May 2023. And the investigator and the prosecutor worked together until the prosecutor is satisfied that the content of the docket is sufficient to proceed to court. It is for that reason that on the 4th of June 2024, then the public prosecutor who's going to prosecute on this matter applied for a warrant of arrest, which warrant of arrest was authorized by the magistrate. And the investigator had to execute that. So you see, it means that it is not about the investigation. The investigators have done precisely what is expected of the investigation, in which the prosecutor was satisfied. That done, the matter is on the court road. Then the law allows that an accused person can also make a representation to challenge the decision to prosecute. It is for that reason that now it goes to the Director of Public Prosecution, which is the superior to the prosecutor who decided that I'm going to prosecute. That done, the law does not end there. It is not the Director of Public Prosecution that finally say that I am not going to prosecute, this matter is closed. It is for that reason that, again, a representation is done to higher authority, which is why it is now directed to the National Director of Public Prosecution, who must review the matter. I hope that it has clarified that it is not the question of investigation. The investigators have done everything that a experienced investigator could do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our session. Let me thank you all for your attendance and participation. There are refreshments that you are welcome to help yourselves to. Thank you very much. The media briefing is closed.
Penegama. Con cabela di jo mana ba ka ntibeletse. Break, you meeting again. Break, you ended the meeting. All right. I'm happy. Okay. Sure.